Hello, students. Today we are going to learn about a very important topic in plant biology, simple permanent tissues. We will try to understand what makes a plant strong, what makes it flexible, and how it stores its food.
So let's start with a question. We have learned that meristematic tissues are always dividing, and this is how a plant grows. But have you ever thought about what happens to these cells once they mature and stop dividing?
Well, once these cells mature, they take up a specific or a special role in the plant's body. And once they do that, they lose their ability to divide further. This entire process of a cell maturing, taking up a permanent shape, a permanent size, and a specific function is called differentiation. And this is exactly how permanent tissues are formed in a plant. Today, we are going to focus on a particular group of these tissues called simple permanent tissues. Now, why are they called simple? Well, it's because they are made up of only one single type of cell, and all these cells look similar and work together to perform a common function. All right, so let's begin with our first type. This is the most common simple permanent tissue, and it is called parenchyma. Now, take a close look at this diagram. Look at how the parenchyma cells are arranged. Do you notice that they are not packed very tightly? You can see some gaps or spaces between them. Let's find out why that is so important. So, here are the key features of parenchyma that you must remember. First, and this is very important, the cells are living. Second, their cell walls are very thin, and as we just saw in the diagram, they are usually loosely arranged, which creates large spaces between them. These spaces are known as intercellular spaces. Now, this structure makes parenchyma perfect for its functions. Its main job is to store food. A very good example of this is the starch stored in a potato. Sometimes parenchyma is modified for special roles. For instance, if it contains chlorophyll, it can perform photosynthesis, and then we call it chlorenchyma. In aquatic plants, it has large air cavities that help the plant to float, and in this case, it is called arenchyma. Okay, so that was parenchyma. Now let's move on to our next tissue, which is collenchyma. We will see how it is different and what special job it performs. If you look very carefully at this diagram, you can see the main characteristic of collenchyma cells. Please pay special attention to the corners of these cells. You will see something quite different is happening there compared to parenchyma. So like parenchyma, the cells of collenchyma are also living. But here is the major difference. The cell walls are thickened, but they are thickened irregularly, only at the corners. Because of this thickening, there is very little intercellular space between them. And this structure perfectly explains its function. Because of those thickened corners, collenchyma provides flexibility to the plant. It allows parts like stems and tendrils to bend easily in the wind without breaking, while also giving them mechanical support. And now for our third type of simple tissue for today. This is sclerenchyma. As the name suggests, this is the tissue that gives plants their hardness and strength. Here, these two diagrams show the sclerenchyma tissue from two different angles. Look at both the longitudinal view and the transverse section. What is the one thing that really stands out? It's the very, very thick cell walls. Now, please note this very carefully for your exams. The most important characteristic of sclerenchyma is that its cells are dead. Their walls are extremely thick because of a chemical substance called lignin, which acts like cement and makes them hard and rigid. In fact, the walls are often so thick that there is no internal space left inside the cell at all. So because of this strong and rigid structure, the main function of sclerenchyma is to provide mechanical strength and make the plant hard and stiff. You can find this tissue in the stems, in the veins of leaves, and in the hard coverings of seeds and nuts. A very good example that will help you remember this tissue is the husk of a coconut. All that toughness and stiffness, it comes from this very tissue, sclerenchyma. So, we have now studied all three types of simple permanent tissues. Let's put them all side by side in a table to clearly understand their differences. This table provides a very clear summary for your revision. Please focus on the key differences. First, look at the cell type. Are the cells living or dead? As you can see, parenchyma and collenchyma are made of living cells, while sclerenchyma is made of dead cells. Then, look at the nature of their cell walls and their main functions. They're all very different. Now, this often brings up a very common confusion among students. They ask, why does a plant need both living tissues and dead tissues for support? And that is a very good question. The answer is actually very simple and logical.
You see, the living cells are needed to perform active metabolic functions, like storing food. The dead, thick-walled cells, on the other hand, form a strong, rigid skeleton for the plant, giving it excellent structural support without needing any energy.
So, to summarize everything we have learned today, simple, permanent tissues are fundamental for a plant's structure and survival. Just remember, parenchyma for storage, parenchyma for flexibility, and sclerenchyma for strength. Each one is perfectly designed for its own specific job. We have covered how plants get support, store their food, and stay flexible. But of course, that is not the whole story. How do plants protect themselves? And how do they transport water and food all the way from the roots to the leaves? We will explore the tissues that answer these questions, the protective and the complex tissues, in our next explainer. Thank you.